the class going? Any feedback, any thoughts, any questions? I know it's just the three of us, or more, but the interviewers aren't in the class.
You know what helped me a lot last week was your explaining of some of the Latin terms, the suffixes and prefixes. It really helped as I started trying to identify. Now I've forgotten them all, of course, but between the round muscles, and the attachment points and all of that, it really helped me start to think about it as a system as opposed to a whole lot of words, which is also what it is. So that helped a lot, and that's what I put on my flashcards, were those little bits and pieces.
And that's a really good point. At some point, I wanted to make a list of pre and suffixes, but they are a lot easy found on the internet. In terms of that, and that's a really good way of studying. And I try to always point them out when we come across them. Another thing that's really good to help. Oh God, where did I put it? Is the terminology, like the different terms for in the bones, like what's a canal, what's a meatus, what's a trochanter, what's a tuberosity. Those always repeat themselves. And I did put in the Padlet, let me find it. I put somebody in the Padlet, I think on week 3, I put a link that I just pulled out from the NIH at some point that I think is helpful for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, the challenge I've had is, there then ends up being 100 suffixes and prefixes, and being able to prioritize the 3, 4, 5 for facial muscles and bones really just helped me focus in, as opposed to trying to learn all of them.
Yeah, exactly. I will go with these things because, you're right. I mean, it gets overwhelming if you just go for the whole thing and try to learn the pre-suffixes. But as you go through it and then integrate them, the ones that come up, that's very, very helpful, because that's also sort of how I feel like I built a vocabulary for, medical terminology over time. Because the stuff just takes time. Where is that thing? Let me find it. Where is it? I thought I posted it. Well, I put a link in. Oh, here it is. Let me go there and then share that with you guys. Screen share. All right. So I just did a quick look for anatomy bony markings, and that's an NIH. So that's a pretty good source. And I'm gonna put that thing, if I can. I was gonna copy paste it into the chat, but I put it in Padlet as well. I put it as a link in Padlet on week 4. So that's also kind of good, because it's interesting. It talks, what is an angle, and it pretty nicely, that sort of stuff. So as a reference, I think that'd be fantastic. Good.
Yeah.
Good stuff. How's the coloring labeling? That working all right?
Yeah, I'm working on that one. One thing I find really helpful, because I'm a big time note taker, is having those previous classes recorded, because sometimes when I don't like trying to read the booklets myself, they're colorful, and there's so much information that I can't really make sense of it on my own. So when I go back but when you use them alongside the recordings, it's super helpful, because everything makes sense. And then you've got the slides up, in the background, and you're giving all the explanation. So like I literally went back in, and my book is riddled with notes now. I mean, there's so many notes in here that I've written so tiny, but it's really helpful for me to understand, because I can't really move on from something until I understand what it is that I was looking at. So I'll go back and kind of review certain sections a couple of times to make sure that I really grasp what you were saying. So that part is helpful, instead of having a live class where I'm like, can you explain that again? Can you say that again? I can just rewind it.
That's sort of how I built the class, that the booklets and the videos go together, because I'm the same way. And also built the class more in a way that it's more important to understand what we're doing versus memorizing what we're doing. That's much more important for me. That's why the tests are open book tests.
But I
And so
have
those
had a
moments,
lot of aha moments already, just in terms of, because we have a couple of friends that have had like some diabetes scares, for example. And I actually, one of my dad's friends I just saw the other day, he was, talking about I hadn't seen him in a while, and he had lost quite a bit of weight. And I was like, wow, you've lost so much weight. You look really great. And he said, yeah, he had, had pre-diabetes, and he was eating like 30 tortillas a day, like 10 tortillas at each meal plus
damn.
beer. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I just, remember going through over the carbohydrates and how all of the carbs turn into sugar in the blood. And then just yesterday, I was kind of reviewing the one again where it talks about glucose passing into the cell and the insulin acting as a receptor. And it was just like, oh, it was cool because everything just sort of came together, and it was all very relative to something I had just been talking about.
Yeah, no, that I'm so glad you say that, because that's exactly what I want to achieve with the class, that we don't necessarily need to know all the little nitty-gritty details of everything, but it starts integrating in your daily life more. And it's interesting you talk about all the carbohydrates. I took a workshop a couple years ago, and they called, to some level, they call dementia diabetes type 4, because they have
that's interesting.
mental stuff and carbohydrates and how the body works with that. And so that was a very interesting connection, and very scary to some level, but just
but it makes sense if you know anybody that's had
carbs.
Dementia, right?
Yeah.
And then they had a high carbohydrate diet.
Yeah, especially the simple carbs, not the ones that the body needs to work on, not the salads and the vegetables, but the white breads and all of that sort of stuff, unfortunately. And that goes back into the processed food. That's why I make you do the food label analysis, just to get an idea a little bit. And, I don't want you guys to get too obsessed about it. That's the negative side. That's why we're just sort of touching on it. And then I want, in some ways, I want you to do with it what you want, but, let it go. Don't feel like you have to keep going with it. Because I took a nutrition class, and it was interesting. We talked about, they talked about food disorders, eating disorders. And this one person who was now, I think, in their 20s, was talking about how in middle school, some nutritionists came and scared them all to shits, and she got all obsessive about her food and created problems around it. So I want to keep that in mind as well. So don't be too hard on yourself. And it's mostly about knowledge, and we have shown that the more knowledge we have, the better we behave for ourselves, just intrinsically. And so that's also good. All right, cool. That's wonderful. One thing I want to make sure for everyone, I know it's only a few people here, but when you listen to the recording, the discussions of previous weeks, they stay open, that if you have not gotten the full point value, it's usually because you did not reply to other people and took sort of part in the discussion. So you can always go back, even though if it's maybe a little bit of busy work, shouldn't be too much, but you want to get all those points, because those are just easy points to get. You don't want to be at the end of the semester and go like, whoa, I didn't know that. And so make sure, if you don't have the full point value, go back and just reply to some people. I keep going back over those weeks and catch the ones who do reply, and then give you full points. And you can also text me in case I miss something or so. That happens in a class like that. So I need all you guys' help as well. Also, as it comes to coloring and labeling, I know the pictures have lines to them, and at some point I want to figure out how to take those lines out, but it is quite a bit of work on my end. Maybe AI is going to help me. We'll see about that. If I can tell AI to take out the lines, the lettering. But you're not responsible to label all the lines. You're simply only responsible to label what is on the list. Let me show you real quick what I mean, because that's very important, because we're adding on terms upon terms upon terms. And at some point, it's like too many terms to keep in the head. And again, you don't have to memorize them, but you do have to understand where they are, and you have to be able to apply them. See, this week we're going into joints and the skeletal system. So we actually have quite a bit of terminology. Joints, we talk about a little bit about the connections between the bones. That's mostly a chapter that then has chapter that has some questions with it. And then we go into the axial skeleton, which is the core part, the center part, the trunk, the spine, the ribs, the sacrum, those kind of things. And then after the second session we have is on the skeletal, on the appendicular skeleton. And that's the arms and the legs. And so that's where actually that bony marking page that I also put in the chat is I think helpful as a reference tool, because a lot of these bumps, like they mean a lot of these terms like trochanter, tuberosity, tubercle, they all just mean bumps for muscle attachment. And if you can group those together, everything gets a little easier. Also, a lot of the times, although that's more respectful to muscle, the first chapter, the regional terms of the body become very helpful because, for example, the term arm means brachii. And you have 4 muscles that have the term brachii in it. And if you recognize that term, you know the muscles in the arm, not in the leg. And so that's kind of a great way to start filtering these names, because it isn't terminology and it can be a little bit overwhelming. And so that's why, as we get to the coloring and labeling, I only want you to label the terms that are on the list.
Okay.
Not everything else. All right. Because otherwise you're gonna get overwhelmed.
That's what made me confused last night when I was doing the assignment. That's what actually took me a little bit longer, because I was more so focused on the label line more so than the list. So I did go back, but the label lines kind of helped me as well too, though.
No, I mean,
double mark them.
Yeah, you certainly have a lot of terms that have a line. It's just if they have a line and it's not on this list, do not worry about it. All I want you to be responsible for is these lists, because then when it comes to annotating, you just kind of, well, actually some of these labs, this one also has questions. And so then you also answer those questions. But what I want you to do is I want you to label, this is the atlas, this is the axis, this is the dens, etc. But only, and then you color it as well, because then you spend a little bit of time on it, but only what's on the list, nothing more than that. All right. And then, oh wait, this one has some questions. Some of them has some questions to it. So make sure if there are questions, answer those as well. However, I think if you annotate it, the questions are, a lot of the questions are also in the annotation. But as you see, in terms of the grading, I'm fairly generous. I'm looking for the terms that are labeled, I'm looking for questions are answered, and the coloring. So mostly people get dinged because they don't do any coloring. Now, I know that sounds a little silly, and sometimes I have people go like, that's just too stupid. But the method behind it is that you spend some time on it. I'm not worried if the coloring is nice, if it's 3 colors the same, always repeated. I just want us to spend a little time with it. Ideally, you, for example, Tracy to make flashcards, then you really understand the material very well, I think. Making it a little kinesthetic. And so let's see, that's that. Any questions to that part? Where are we? Come on. Where is my thing? Oh, week 4. Wait, week 5. We are in week 5, right?
Yeah. I actually have one question about the assignment. So, for the skull, there were, 4 different views of the skull, profile, face, etc. I just mostly labeled one or the other when that muscle was visible as opposed to on all 4, right?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up too. Yes, you're only responsible to label this one time, one place. Okay. Ultimately, I'm going to get an arts degree and I'm going to draw these things myself. But for this purpose, I still have to go to the internet and find the best symbol picture. And I've done those maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, so only one time you need to label them.
Okay.
And at the end, this is what I wanted to say. At the end, you also, what I want you to do is go to the test review. Not potentially. review those videos. That's kind of a nice place to go. We're starting up. We have, the first one talks about the skull and facial muscles, and we go in sequence. So you just start watching those as well. I also have them linked to YouTube directly. There's a YouTube channel too. But then the other thing that I want to show you is make sure you take a note of this list, because this is all the terms combined. So all these terms are the ones in the assignments. So if you print this out, you have all the terms you need to know for the second test.
And how did you get there? Could you go back and show us that path you took?
Yeah, you close this out. Let me see. I got to make sure I can access it. So you go to the test review. So if you go to modules, you have test 2 at the bottom after week 8. And the first one here is test review. And in there, you have these different tabs. And the first one is that list. And you can download it and print it out, or put it on your device or whatever you want. And then the second one is videos where I go through all the terms. So again, there's a lot of videos. They're all this. It's all pretty much the same repetitive thing. This is not the same videos than in the labs, but it's the same material. I've done those over the years. Yeah, they don't show up here. It's too slow. I've done those over the years. So sometimes it's a little bit off in terms of which terms is on which one, but they're pretty accurate. Your responsibility, though, is only this list. And the third tab here that I also kind of like is, hopefully that will show up, is I created a document with most of all the pictures that are going to be on the test when we get to that test. Because on that test, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and say, like, what's this called? What's this landmark called? And you're going to write down glabella. And by the way, that's always on the test. So that is your point number 1 right there. Because it rhymes with my second daughter, Isabella. So I have to always remember her. So that's, I can just show you that real quick too when it comes to the test. That way you know what we're doing. Because the second test is very different than the first test. It's the same tool, like a test tool, but maybe I can visualize it. I'm not sure. No, I can't visualize it in student view. Hold on real quick. Get out of student view. But in the second test, you're going to have, I think, 54 questions, and they're all like this. You're going to be asked either a landmark, a bone, or a muscle. The bone is the whole bone. What's this bone called? That would be the frontal bone. The landmark is a part of that bone. That would be this part. That's the glabella. See, test question number 1. You're going to get that right. Or otherwise, I know you didn't watch the video. And then what you do is, then you write it in here. You write in glabella. And then the system corrects it automatically, but I go through all the tests individually and make sure I, give you credit if there's a misspelling. So I don't want to have you to worry about that. But that's basically what it is. I also, and unfortunately I have to redo these, the links all got broken, but I also have a video, like 15-second clip that says, name this landmark, and I point to it. And so you can watch the video, you can do the picture. You even have an external link to the video in case your browser doesn't visualize it. So that's how I do the second test. Is that clear?
Yes. And when is that one due? That's due tomorrow?
No.
Not till, okay, I was going to say.
Oh, no.
Week 8.
That is like way down the line.
I got some studying to do. My goodness.
No, you are. I kept test 1 open through Tuesday for the ones who were a little behind. That's test 1. See up there, but test 2. That's due March 28th.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Can I ask you too? You brought up before the Padlet, but I haven't accessed it yet.
And that is about the test. So quiz 2. So is that already had the captionings on it?
What? Which quiz? Sorry, Secret. We'll get right back to you.
Oh, quiz 2?
Test 2 or quiz 2?
No, what we just did, the video that
Okay.
you just were talking about with the questions. So that already
Mhm.
has, the captioning's already in it, right?
I think so. Let me double check.
All right.
I hope so. Yeah, well, hold on. Let me double check.
All right.
Yeah, I can't see it right in here. I have to work on that, but I think it does from what I remember. And otherwise I have to put them in. But they'll definitely be in by the time you take the test. All right. So let me make sure I take a note to double check that. I have to do those anyway. Put those back in.
All right.
Okay. All right. And then Secret, sorry, we interrupted you.
No worries. I just wanted to know, I know she probably can't see me because I'm driving, so I don't have my face on, so she probably can tell I was talking. But I just was wondering about the Padlet that you had brought up. I haven't accessed that yet, but can you show where to get to that?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
So if you go to not studio, go back to my class here. So if you go to the modules, each week at the end of the module, you have this wrap up questions and tips, and you go in here. And there's this Padlet. Nobody's done this one yet because we're just getting to that. And you can click here, and then it goes to an external bigger link. And then you sign in with your student email from Merit, and then you can post by clicking plus here, and then you can write something, and then it publishes it. Let me show you quickly the ones from the previous week. And so basically, I'll do that to wrap up the week. There's questions sometimes that you can answer, or some highlights, some things that was a positive that you thought like, hey, that really helped me. I really found that great, or something. And I'll put those. I read those, and then that helps me a lot. And also, we get some dialogue going between you guys. Because sometimes there's like, hey, can somebody help me with some study tips because this flashcard is not quite working, or how do you do it, and so forth like that.
So is this more like a bulletin board, or is it required?
No, it is. Well, you get 5 points for it. So It is sort of the finish up, but it is a bulletin board format. That's sort of the Padlet. That way it looks like this, where everything just shows up as little sticky notes, and then you can the visualization is the Padlet basically. So it's
okay, so is this on top of the replying to others, or is this kind of the same action?
No, this is to wrap up the week. You don't have to respond to people here. I ask people to respond and read a few to help out the classmate and have the conversation going. But it's just a wrap up sort of the week. And the first few weeks, I still have to do. Last week, I gave everybody credit, but then afterwards, I start being more picky and say like, hey, who's partaking in that and who's not gets the 5 points.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm glad I asked because I didn't know that was graded.
Yeah, see, look, I show you when it has, you can see here always it says points. If you see points,
yeah.
you know it's graded.
Yeah. Okay.
That's where you see that. Yeah, it's minimal, but you know, my point, my point's your money. So it's like I can give you points for things I want to do, and I wanted the class move forward and evaluate. You know, it's not the highest value, but it is helpful for a class dynamic to sort of work. You know, and people talk to each other or interact with each other.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, but if you're overwhelmed, that's the last thing. You know, that's the first thing you can drop.
I'm just trying to catch up. I'll look at that when I
yeah, so don't worry. You know, I'm sure even week 4, I give everybody still points for week 4, and then I'll start being a little more picky on that. I get some really great replies. I take the Padlets very seriously myself, to guide me in the class and see where the sort of the temperature is at, and what I needed to improve on and what's doing all right. So for me, it's an important tool. Good. All right. So with that, I think we're almost figured out what we're doing this week, because let's see, that's week 4 again. Let me just go back to week 5. So we're looking at the whole skeleton this week. So make sure you start sort of early, because it is quite of a big undertaking to do this whole week. It's just a lot of terminology. So spend some time with the videos and with the labeling, really work heavily with the labeling. I think that's really the crux of the matter, is that repetition of seeing a bone. And then on Wednesday, oh yeah, I got to make sure nobody goes to school today. I send it out in the text. Instead of Monday this week, we just do the lab on Wednesday. We start at 6 o'clock, and I will start sending out maps and understanding of where it's at. I'll probably start that this afternoon. That way we have a bit of back and forth for people who have a hard time figuring out where it's at. And then the other thing we're going to do is we finished the lifestyle assessment, the health challenge last week. And so thank you for all of you who've been partaking in that and we're texting and also at the end texting me back. So I think it's most of you seem to have enjoyed that. And so what I want to do is finish up just a little discussion form of that, same questions that I asked you in the text, just everybody sort of take care of that. Like, how was it, easy, difficult, annoying, benefits, and then what do you think in continuing or not? So just a little bit of a wrap up discussion on that. Nothing too fancy schmancy. And then what else we have? And then what we do this week, we're gonna have 3 exercises that have to do with sort of the musculoskeletal system. We're going to do an ergonomic evaluation, which sort of shows us how we sit on the table, talks a little bit about head weight bearing forward, that's the big kahuna we're sitting down, a little bit about the biomechanics of sitting, and I have some tips here. This came out of a workshop that I did for Merit when COVID just started, because everybody started sitting on the couch and all the joints started aching and hurting on people. And so I created this little workshop that actually is this one up here that I gave on Zoom. And I made a pamphlet around it, and now incorporated it into the canvas. And I just figured we might as well go through that, because there's some helpful tips to do. So we have some tips. And then what I want you to do is I want you to look at your workstation and evaluate that. If you take a picture from the side and think about what could you improve on. And then to finish up, what I've done in here is I've done some stretches that I put in, a few of them that are helpful for sitting postures. And since most of us sit, I just figured we should do those stretches for a few days and see if they are helpful or not. Obviously, if you do anything physical like that and it doesn't feel good, stop it, text me, don't push it through and make yourself have more pain. But I have these few here that I want you to go through and do a few times and see if you get something out of them. And we do that this week. And then you upload. Let's see, what do we upload at the end here? I think come on, that's a lot. Yeah, we do a little tracker, and then we upload some questions that are in those sections, and a few questions on the ergonomic tips, and then a little bit of your own evaluation, and then a couple questions that I do at the end of the stretching. So that's basically for that. I want to make sure. Yeah, this one I'm going to actually extend to the next week, because if you do the exercise at the end of the week and then you got to do a week of stretching, I got to extend it for 1 week. So make sure you do it. Maybe I'll leave it in there. We'll see. But that's what we're doing this week. And then we'll finish up with a little Padlet. And that's basically it. The next week, we start going through muscles. And then we have there the second exercise we do in this session, in this part, is the posture evaluation. And then on week 7 and week 8, I actually created an injury prevention evaluation that goes through some exercises to see how am I doing. You know, when we do the muscles of the leg, we're going to do some squats to feel them and not just to talk about them and think about them. So those are sort of the 3 health kit things we do in the next part of this class. All right, I think that's all I have to talk about. You guys have any questions? No, that's good.
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Well, then we can close it out. You know, if anything comes up, you're always free to just shoot me a text, and we can do a Zoom, or we can just back a little bit. But do the best you can. Start early this week. It's a lot of terms.
No,
Okay.
Professor Munninghouse, am I allowed to retake the skull quiz over? Because I got a 12 and I'm not happy with that. So I wanted to know if I could retake it.
Oh, the test?
No, not the test, the quiz we just took on the skulls.
Oh, the quizzes? You can
Yeah.
take the quizzes over and over and over. Yeah. I thought that was clear. Yeah.
Okay.
The quizzes do not have any limits of how many times you can take them.
Okay.
Which is important to know because it's busy. It's kind of busy work. I do the quizzes or these questions for you to learn the material and to massage sort of the material by going through them. The one that I can't give you more than one trial is the tests. The only thing where you do not have a ability to take something multiple times or resubmit are the tests. Everything else you can work over and over, and I give you the highest score for it. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for asking, Marquise.
Yeah. No, thank you for helping me out.
Yeah.
I think that was the only thing though that I had complications with. I will say I do need a memory system on memorizing the term. Like bomber, that one, because it has a weird name, I automatically know where it is. It's in the nasal bone area. So one of the smallest bones in the
vomer, probably the vomer you're talking about. Yeah, no,
yeah, Vomer, not bomber, Vomer.
That's why I want you to just stay with the list, because the terminology does get complex. And
okay,
you know, I when I have to study these things, I draw the pictures on a flashcard. I trace it. I label it. I need to spend time doing something. I'm very kinesthetic, and most people are fairly kinesthetic.
right.
So that's helped me. And then always keep in mind, all I want you to do really is, at the end, you need to be able to look up what I'm asking. You don't need to memorize it.
Okay.
Use open book tests. And so that's, I think, important to keep in mind. And then as it comes to the muscles, oh shoot, what did I do here? Hold on. What did I do? If it comes to the muscle, I just finish up showing you real quick. At least, for sure, it's in the extremity muscles. What I did, I created helpful things, hopefully helpful things. Here, study tips. I have video cadaver clips. So I have 15 to 30, 45-minute clips of every muscle, pretty much every muscle that some anatomist shows on a cadaver. You don't have to watch them if you don't want to see that.
Right.
But it's very, very helpful to use those tools and see that in the body. And so that's then a link to that. That's on a Dropbox file when we get to the muscles. Also, there's a whole PDF with all muscles that you can cut out and make flashcards with. And then I also created a picture that is my favorite that shows all the muscles on one page electronically that you can zoom in and see.
Oh,
so this is that. And
that's cool.
So I try to, and these are tools that I use myself for my studies at my clinic. I have to go with these small muscles, and sometimes it's, learning never stops, right?
Right.
And so I want to make those available for you too. So I created some tools, but also yourself create as many repetitiveness tools that you look at the material. You know, often it's hard because we glance over it. Like when you read the book, it's like, what did you read? I don't remember. You know, because if it's a novel, that's fine. It's a storyline, but these are all just terms, and you have to slow down the studying. That's why the booklets don't have too many words.
Honestly, you know what else helps me too? Your voice helps me memorize stuff because I don't know, it's kind of funny. But like when you were saying, even when I read the text in the quizzes, it's almost like you're still talking in there. You was talking about how it's one of the terms, I think it was the I don't know the pronunciation very well, but it starts with a Z, Z-Y-G-O.
Oh, the zygomatic.
Yeah, you had you said it's a funny name. I think it was about that and the and the bomber.
Yeah, no,
both of those.
Well, I'm glad you'll find it fun. You know, that makes me really happy because when I go to Switzerland and I hear myself speak English, then I hear my accent. It's like, oh my God.
And I love it. It's so cool. I really do. Well, it's not a huge language barrier at all. I understand everything that you're saying. The contents get through clearly, and you make it fun.
Well, I
that
appreciate
really was helping.
Well, you're gonna have a couple funny ones come up in the especially the appendicular. There's one really funny one, I think.
Yeah, appendicular
does have some. Remember.
And then the one that I also remember that you referenced how the dimple, it's the buccinator or buccinator. That's a muscle in the temporal area, right?
Right here.
Yeah, right here. So I remember that one as well. So I'm kind of getting the hang of it. So I think the more I watch your videos, the more I'll learn them.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, you got to bring it down to reality. It's in your body. So we have to just bring it down as much as we can from the head. What this great educator, Pestalozzi, who was in the 1800s, said, you got to involve the head, the heart, and the hand in And that's why I'm like, make flashcards, get a buy-in, go look at food labels, all that kind of stuff, because it involves the heart. Like, I want to do this. I'm interested in this.
Correct.
And so that's, you know, it's maybe a good place to stop or to call it a day. Is anybody else having anything to comment or questions or tips? Those are really great tips, Marquise, too.
Oh, I wanted to also recommend, I'm taking Nutrition 10. If people want to keep up with what they're eating every day, if you go to myplate.gov or .org.
That's a good place to be.
It's hold on, I have my laptop out. It's myplate.gov, and if you go down, you could take a quiz on and get a healthy meal plan for yourself, and it's free. You don't have to get charged for anything. They tell you they tell you the amount and the food groups you should be eating from.
Yeah, that's a really good site. I've been working with that too. I took Nutrition 10 last semester again, just for the fun.
Cool.
No, that's a really good place.
Yeah, I'm taking it with Professor Heather Seller, or I don't know how to say her last name. I
forgot my professor's name. It wasn't her, it was somebody else. But it was a good class.
Yeah, it's cool. It's at her class, we don't have no Zoom meetings, but I like how she has she has worksheets for us.
That's good.
So you can download the worksheet and then fill in on electronically.
Yeah, no, nutrition is certainly one of the aspects. That's why we did a lifestyle health challenge with the water. Nutrition is one of those 3 parts that we can change, that we can make us feel better and have a healthier life that way. But it's really about feeling good, right?
Right.
All right, wonderful. Okay, I think we're all good, huh?
I have a question.
Hold on.
Yeah. The exam, not the test, the quiz. I didn't know what. I don't have electrics 2 days. I can't do it tonight.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
because it's 2 days no electric in my area.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear.
Because
No, we're flexible with that. Do not worry about it. And even though when you guys are a few days late, you get a little late penalty, at the end, I can always take that out if it's a problem of a grade or so. That way,
Okay.
do not worry. Don't get too stressed over that. Try to focus. When I studied Cairo, it was always, there's two mountains. One mountain is the material to study, and the other mountain is the fear and the worry and the anxiety I have about it. And that second mountain, if we make that as small as possible, we have more time and energy for that learning the stuff, right?
Yeah. Thank you so
keep
much.
that in mind. No, I'm very
Okay, thank
flexible.
you.
Mhm,
Okay,
you're
thank you.
welcome. All right, good. Okay, I think that's good, huh? Crickets is a good sign. With that, I wish you a wonderful week.
Okay, you too. Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
See you
Have a good
Wednesday.
day.
Come to lab on Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay, see you there.
What's the
See you
earliest
there.
you'll be there?
I think about 5:45, 5:30. I think I have to be at 5:30 because we have to install some stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Peace out.
Bye.
Oh, how do I? Oh, I didn't leave.